wherever, unclean dishes. I think the clothes not being in the hamper they got from their dad. So the police would call me out on that one. But doing a bit more research, I found that doing a rewards and a recognition sort of chart inside the house and implementing it, that might be an idea worth taking and then looking at. So I asked some friends who were doing it, and we did something like this, wherein you'd have the task, and then you'd have the checklist per day, tasks at the left, and if they completed the tasks, like number of checks, like if you go 36 to 45 checks this week, you get a regular ice cream cone on Saturday. If you do like 45 to 50 checks, then you get a blizzard. It's a higher form of reward. And you know what? It worked. There's some hiccups. No? Like, we began investigating some collusion between the children and some of the household helpers. And whenever we would take a checkout, it's really a crying session for some of them. But for the most part, and this was incredible because we were trying to make it work just by telling them to be obedient. But when we put this thing in our living room for all to see, gamified with clear rules and checks and a clear system, it worked. I got the kids to do some chores. And I was thinking, interesting. This could be a great idea for a product. So this was one of the inspirations for us doing our next product, which is called, well, this is the title of the talk, but it's also the name of our second product. So as the introduction mentioned earlier, we're really more known for our flexible benefit system, but we launched a new product last year called Kudos. So what I'll do is I'll tell you first the ins and outs of Kudos and how we developed it. And then, it's now being used by 50,000 users across different industries, across different clients, and we have a ton of insight. So it's really a gamification platform, right? So that's what I'll do. So I'm not trying to hard sell you on but I need you to understand what the system is. So later when we go through the insights, you'll understand more where I'm coming from. Is that good? Sounds good? All right. So Kudos is a rewards and a recognition program with a ton of gamification elements. I'll show you some. So here is where we create awards, where the company actually creates awards. So this is the admin part of the system wherein if I'm the HR manager, I can create an award, let's say top seller of the month, barista of the month, person who exemplifies this value best, person who's never late, whatever award you'd want to give and recognize. You can create a badge, and very importantly, you can assign points. So there are some badges with no points, so it's just really the recognition element. But for some badges, there are rewards, so there are points that are associated. You can also reward by teams. So you can create teams, and you can measure the performance of the team, and later on we'll see how the teams are actually awarded. Here, the dashboard is where you see everything, total number of awards. It's where really we look at the data across the different firms and try to get different insights. So this is important. We really try to be a data-centric sort of firm, so we try to collect every piece of data that's available, and that's how people are using the system, etc. This is your own rewards and recognition page. So each person has her own. And to the left, you'd see there your earned badges. So if you got an award, one of the awards we developed earlier, it can be seen here in public. And then you also get claps. Like if a person can send another person a clap, or here Aura gave kudos or a clap to Mia and then explains why. So it's like your own personal trophy case of accomplishments and awards that's publicly seen. If you remember Friendster, it sort of looks like something like that. You have testimonials, for some of you old enough to know and then to remember. And then you see the different people, how many awards they have, how many badges they have, etc. And then very importantly, the points that you accumulate and win whenever you hit certain targets, whenever you hit certain behaviors, you can use on an online rewards marketplace, which is also what our flexible benefits product uses. So we were thinking, this is good, we can use the same marketplace, but for a different sort of function inside a firm. So instead of benefits, we're tapping into incentives and rewards. And then you can really select some of the, like your favorite stuff in the marketplace and create like a wish list, a vision board. Then whenever you do the behavior, let's say you're hitting monthly sales, you'd see that meter, that orange meter, get filled up. And then when you hit the metric, then it tells you you're now eligible to buy the item, or the item is bought automatically as you accumulate your points. And then you have leaderboards. So whatever the award is, there are public leaderboards so everyone can see who's like the topmost sort of person in this particular category, etc. And then you also have notifications. So for example, if Mark wins this award for this month, top seller of the month, a notification is sent to everyone that recognizes also Mark for his accomplishment. And you see it on your app, and then you recognize Mark, that he hit that particular target, won that particular behavior that month. So these are the core functions. And if you notice, the typical gamification elements, badges, leaderboard, points, are all in. So that was really something that was very conscious when you try to design the system. But we're actually putting in more stuff as we learn and get more behavior as to how people are using it. So let's get to the meat of the discussion. I want to give you, and this is a first, actually we've never compiled insights and data across the past 1.5 years. But, so this is a first. I wanted to give you 7 or 8 main data points, insights, and lessons over the past 1.5 years that different employees from different companies across different industries have used our platform. Let me give you some quick numbers first. So we launched this in March 2016, last year. It's been used now by around 42,000 users. There were a total of 36,000 rewards given. There are 708 unique awards on the platform. So that's a snapshot of user behavior, major statistics. First insight. We noticed that cash as a reward, if that's the reward, you need it for hygiene, but it's really in-kind benefits, in-kind rewards. That's more motivating for individuals, which is very interesting. Our theory now, our ongoing theory now, is that if you're giving cash incentives, around 10 or 15% of overall commissions, if you want to be very strategic, should be in kind. Because when you do that, this can happen. So one of the FMCG companies we work with, their sales increased by 15-20% from 2016, in 2016 versus 2015 when they rolled this out. So that was a very, very good design for that particular performance, their performance system. But in-kind really works. And I think we know this, right? If you're given like 200 pesos during Christmas, the value of that versus someone really thinking of giving you a 200 peso thoughtful gift, the value of the 200 gift is much higher than the 200 pesos you were given. And there are other, there are actually a bunch of studies you can find online which support this. But this is interesting because it's different when you read it in articles and research papers versus seeing it actually happen when we simulate it on a platform like this one. The other advantage of doing things in kind is that this happens. We share it. They would never share it, like give someone a 20,000 peso bonus, that's great, but they would never share it. So I've never ever seen someone say, thank you so-and-so company for my 20,000 pesos. That's never happened, right? Even if it's incentives, right? They got it during Christmas for a job well done. Even if they're really happy, they're not, because they're, again, different theories. They feel like they deserve it, etc. But if it's a gift, the behavior is just completely different. And it's wonderful. I'm an HR nerd when it comes to, I read all the motivation theories, etc. And it's very interesting to actually see the theories flesh out when you roll out the platform. So that's the first. Think about the rewards that you're giving, because it's a big part of the motivation of whatever gamification system that you're planning to implement. In-kind works versus cash, especially if we're talking about performance. Does that make sense? Next, the mechanics have to be very clear and as simple as can be. I remember we were working with a pharma company here in Makati. And they wanted to reward people who would exemplify they have like 6 or 7 values. It was an award per value. And the sort of system they wanted was for other people to nominate other people for the award. So they would have to create like a short essay of why this person's deserving this quarter, and then submit it through the app. And then they submit it through the app, and then who would now choose? A 5-man committee would convene, and they would choose the winners. But if the person in question belonged to the team of one of the elders, he would have no vote. But it's a convoluted sort of, a long list of requirements and how it works. And it's easy to really forecast and predict what the behavior was. It was a failure as a campaign. And in my opinion, it is because the game, the system was much too complex. So the communications, how it works, has to be as simple as possible. The simpler the mechanics, the higher the engagement. And that's what we've seen on the platform. One insight we have here is that it's not enough to just do it through the app. For example, leaderboards. People actually care more if, yes, the leaderboards are on the app, but also if it's on the bulletin board for everyone to see. Sometimes if it's just a technical sort of communications, your mechanics are just on some app, it's not present physically in the office, then people just forget or don't mind. But if you are present in both scenarios, then the power of your campaign is just much higher. So again, if you're using technology, don't forget that the basic stuff, putting it on a bulletin board for everyone to see, putting it in every room, making people announcing it, making your leaders announce it, those are still very, very important to support your campaign. This is interesting, right? Because the behavior we were thinking of because you would have a lot of theory on the smaller or the more granular an award is, if given more frequently, that's better than a big reward given on a delayed basis. This isn't true on the platform. So, with our experience, the bigger reward is more motivational than the smaller one. So here's one insight, right? For our clients who let their employees accumulate points, meaning throughout the year, it doesn't, what do you call this? You don't have a validity period, so you can accumulate. Most people would save. And that was that was not the, we were thinking, Filipinos, when they get the amount, they would spend it already. But no. Half of the budget that's on our platform is used in the fourth quarter. Why? They would wait for a bigger ticket item and then buy it during the Christmas season. So, in fairness, right? It's people have EQ, so they wait. They want the bigger ticket item more rather than buying several smaller items. Another manifestation of this theory is these are two very similar in terms of population companies that we have on the Kudos platform. The average award value for the finance firm is 76 points. The average award value for this BPO firm is 853. Both companies are around 5,000 employees. So much higher. But the frequency for the finance firm daily, they would give awards every day. Meanwhile, your BPO gives awards every month, less frequently. What's the engagement like? 1% for the finance firm. 67% for the BPO. Those guys would buy more, use the platform a lot more than the finance firm. Bigger awards, less frequent. They would wait for it. They would wait the next month to see if their behavior translated into rewards, but higher engagement. Again, it's counterintuitive because you think we had one company, piso. They wanted their managers to award like at a very granular. They were saying, Peter, if we do it granularly, everyone will use it like 5 pesos. No one cared about their 5 peso reward. So that's a lesson for that firm, right? So the larger the amounts, even if you accumulate it a bit and give it in less frequent less frequently, it's much more effective that way. Again, very interesting. So let's go to badges. The badges denoting the type of award. We've categorized it into two, right? There are performance awards, so this is usually very clear. Market share, peso amount, sales landed, how many doctors did you talk to this month, etc. So very, very clear, performance part. And then you'd have like a quarterly winner, an annual winner, etc. So they're different performance awards. But there are also culture awards, birthdays, values awards, not late award. So those are the two main categories we've seen. This is some of the behavior. 3 companies, FMCG, BPO, and a consulting firm. Percent of performance awards. For the FMCG, this company, 100% performance. They don't reward any culture behavior. For the BPO company, 25. For the consulting company, 29. Average value. So this particular FMCG company is very generous when it comes to their sales incentives. So 5,000 bucks average per award. BPO company, 600. Consulting company, 2,400. Now, percentage of awards that are cultural. So if you add the second row and the fourth row, that's 100%. So 75 BPO, consulting company, 70.7. So it's a nice mix of people who award mostly performance, a lot culture and the mix. Average value for the culture awards is this. And then your award rate. So very high here, but also very high here. This is interesting because what happened here is that since the culture award was much higher than the performance award, they weren't really motivated in going after the performance awards. So because they were pretty happy winning the culture awards, so that was again something that we had to learn together with that particular firm to sort of change it up a bit. But the engagement levels here in this consulting company are pretty high. The insight here is that it's very, very good if you do both. Another insight would be it's good if the performance awards are a bit higher than your culture, but it's very good to have a good mix of both. This consulting company is really, they're using that platform to the utmost. So their employees are much more engaged. And again, it's a mix. So again, if you're gamifying stuff and you're asking yourselves, what sort of behaviors am I gamifying? What sort of behaviors am I incentivizing? Then you have to think of both. Performance is something that our managers, our top executives will always try to hammer. That's automatic. I think the challenge for us as HR practitioners is, hey, you cannot forget about the culture part. And you have to put a budget also there. So you have to support it cash-wise as well. 5 is like any game, right? So we're all gamers here. For those of you who play video games, what's the longest that you've played a game? I don't know if I played a game for more than a year. That would be my NBA 2K obsession. I would play that entire year coinciding with the NBA season. But for the other more, like the mobile app games, 2 weeks, a month, then you're already looking for that next game because you're already, you're fed up already. Nothing's fresh already. So the lesson there is, you have to keep that game, you have to keep that system fresh. So how do some of our companies do it? We help out because we've noticed already that if we keep the marketplace fresh, if we keep the list of our rewards fresh, of course the S7 is very old, so not a good example here. But if we keep that with relevant items, then that's something, and we communicate it the right way to everyone, then that makes a difference. And then we try to put in also your company logo, your company communications, and then we blend it in the comms. And then every week, for some companies, twice a week, we communicate with their employees to tell them what's new about the program. Whether it's a new award, if the employer is saying, hey, we have a new award, here are the mechanics, or a new sort of item on the marketplace, or if there's a sale on the marketplace, then we announce it, and that keeps things fresh. Another thing that our clients do is, they do periodic campaigns. Here we have a sales rally. So some of our clients are FMCGs with large sales rallies. So what they do is, they coincide a campaign, they even brand it. What's the brand of? They call it, the campaign for the next 3 or 4 months on our Kudos platform will be named this. But it will only run for 4 quarters. Meaning, if you win awards and you get your points, what's the word I'm looking for? They expire at the end of the 4th month. And then when that's over, you have another fresh campaign, and they launch it like crazy. So they really support it already. But again, this company, their effort to support that program pays off because their employees are so engaged. This is the same company that experienced the 15-16% increase in sales versus last year because of the program. Leaderboards only become relevant to companies who are engaged. So again, super interesting data, right? You'd think they'd be competitive. But if they aren't engaged, they won't care. How do we know? What we track here is which are the most popular pages that they visit on our app. Is it their own pages with their own trophies, other people's profiles? Is it the rewards page? Is it the leaderboard page, this one? For companies who aren't engaged, they don't check the leaderboards. They don't care. But for some with 96%, 90% engagement on the platform, that's when the leaderboard usage becomes higher. I think third or fourth, never number one. So I don't know what that means. Does it mean that people are less competitive than we thought? Maybe. But that's interesting. We've really yet to dig into that theory. Why? Why don't they care? Or are we putting out the leaderboards in the right way? So there are a lot of questions that we work with our clients. The hard lesson for us, so when we created the platform, again, I was thinking of my kids. It's public, there's a point system, there's a clear reward. And then, of course, when you read about gamification, you hear about points, badges, and leaderboards, PBL. Actually, it's a famous acronym in gamification. But the hard lesson for us is gamification, for gamification's sake, doesn't work. If you come here and you think this is the next trend in HR, I want to do gamification, I want to put points, badges, and leaderboards, I want to make it fun, and that's the only reason that you're doing it, it's likely your campaign, your project will likely fail. Because it's deeper than that. So the lesson we've learned really is that, and yes, I'm saying this as someone who sells a tool. The tool is useless if the design, if the effort put into it, if the support you're giving it isn't there. If the strategy behind it isn't there. So it has to be propulsive. What do I mean? First, you have to define what's problem you're solving. One of our clients, for example, L'Oreal, they've been doing, I remember when I graduated 3 years ago. No, not 3 years ago. Some time ago. You already had your L'Oreal brand store. And their problem is, how do we get the best people in the universities to apply? That's the problem definition. Very clear. How do we do it? Let's do a brand contest. Let's do it per university, there's a local winner, and let's fly out the local winners into an international sort of competition. It's competition. It's gamifying recruitment. But they were very clear with what they wanted. It's been a lasting sort of program across the last 2 decades because the solution really fit the problem. It solved the problem. It created a better brand. It's really very, very much aligned. It was well thought of. They evolved it over the years. So there's a clean sort of alignment. They weren't forcing it. Another is Walmart used a 3-minute game. Their problem was, how do we get safety incidences in our distribution centers down? They had 8 distribution centers. They put a 3-minute sort of game inside their onboarding process, and they say that was the one responsible for eliminating 53% of safety incidences across their 8 distribution centers at that time. Clear problem. They came up with a gamified solution that was also very aligned and very clear. So, I think that's the first thing, right? What's the most pressing problem you have right now in your organizations in HR? And then think about trying to gamify. It's not the other way around. You have to be very clear with what you're trying to solve. Once you have your why, in order to use, so we're not trying to kill anyone here. In order to use gamification properly, you need now, so once you have your why, you need to understand what motivates my employees in the first place. So again, I think that's and we learned this because at first, hey, we have a gamification tool, you can use it, and then we run into some problems that I mentioned earlier, right? Too granular, too wordy, and then we have to sort that out with our clients, and we learn together with them. Maybe the system you created isn't a match with the sort of profile your guys have as far as motivation is concerned. In HR, again, that's our job. We have to understand who our people are. So we're in the prime position to actually make a difference. So once we have our why, let's say we want to recruit better, or we want to solve employee satisfaction, let's say, in sales. Then look at your profile. Who are my sales people? Once we understood this, we began to realize that as a product firm, our tool really isn't enough. It's really not enough. And we arrived at this conclusion. We need a framework for motivation, actually. A framework for gamification. So we scoured around, and then we arrived at this. So we didn't come up with this. It's by Kai Chow. He has a popular TED Talk. So you should Google it. This is his framework. He says that every effective game draws on any one or a set of these 8 core drives that humans have, right? So we have meaning, accomplishment, empowerment, ownership, social influence, scarcity, unpredictability, and avoidance. And this is a great framework because it means a lot of things. Like the ones on top are known as white hat gamification elements. The ones at the bottom are black hat gamification elements. The ones on the right are right-brain gamification elements. So there's really a ton of analysis. And here you have your different gamification elements. Virtual goods, status points, badges, narratives, etc. And he's saying that if you want a great game, you want to gamify something, a system best, you're coming up with a game, it has to really hit on these 8 core drives. And he goes on, so he analyzes Facebook, and that's how you analyze. Like, this is level 1 of Octalysis. The framework is called Octalysis. He analyzes Facebook, so it's more right-brain sort of gamification, motivation. Friend invites, social pressure, envy, sharing whatever you want. So that's in the empowerment sort of, what do you call this? Drive. And then he analyzes Candy Crush. I don't know if some of you still play Candy Crush, but my wife still plays a lot of Candy Crush. And so you can really analyze your design and put it against the framework and see what you have. There's actually level 2 analysis on, like, at onboarding, there should be particular elements that should be hit. Because a game has a life cycle. But you don't need to go through that. I think at our level, it's really this question. Are you hitting any of the 8 core drives? And you should really read this. I'll give you some resources later. Each of the 8 are powerful. For example, notice that in a lot of action games, you're there to save the universe, kill the dragon and save the princess, and you're the only one everyone in the world is relying on. That's really tapping on the epic meaning and calling drive. Facebook taps on social influence and relatedness. The best games tap on all. How are your games designed? So there again, there has to be more. The design of your game. And I know you talked about game design earlier. It's very important. But linking it, again, we're HR practitioners. And what I love about this framework is, it's another motivation theory. And I mentioned earlier, I'm an HR geek. So I know the Maslow hierarchy of needs, your Skinner reinforcement theory, Vroom, etc. To me, this is a modern day motivational theory. That's